This podcast is about the market revolution, which took place between 1800 and 1840 in the United States. When historians talk of the market revolution, they're referring to the economic changes that took place during the first half of the 19th century. The economic changes of the market revolution were a result of innovations in transportation and communication. Before this period, ships were slower, there were no canals, manufacturing was done by hand, and there were almost no roads. Before the market revolution, most families used little cash and produced much of what they needed at home. One reason for this is that it was almost impossible for farmers who lived far from waterways to get their products to market. One of the reasons for this was a lack of roads. It was not until the market revolution that private companies, state governments, and localities began spending money on toll roads and turnpikes. Improvements in water transportation most effectively lowered cost and increased the spread of trade. Robert Fulton in 1807 sailed the first steamboat on the Hudson River in New York. The steamboat made upstream navigation faster. This was used first on the Mississippi River and the Great Lakes, and then later on the Atlantic Ocean as a way to speed up trade. In 1825, the Erie Canal is completed in upstate New York. The canal connects upstate New York with the Old Northwest and fosters trade between farmers in the West and manufacturers in the East. Railroads open the interior of the country and lead to the growth in coal, mining, fuel, and iron industries. Between 1828 and 1860, 30,000 miles of railroad track was laid in the United States, making the United States the worldwide leader in railroad tracks. If you look at this map, you can see the red lines were railroad tracks that were in place by 1850, and the purple lines are the lines that were built between 1850 and 1860, opening up the West even more so. In the 1830s, Samuel F.B. Morse invents the telegraph, which allowed for instantaneous communication. This allows for major improvements in the speed and flow of information. This is a map from 1814 that shows the different telegraph stations in the United States. You can see the black lines with the black circles to show where telegraph stations were. This made it much easier for information to travel across the country in a quicker manner. These transportation and communication improvements lead to the growth of the American West. Between 1790 and 1840, 4.5 million people crossed the Appalachian Mountains. Between 1815 and 1821, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Alabama, Mississippi, and Maine all enter the Union. But as democracy spread west, it unfortunately was for white males only. Voting, office holding, and participation in the public sphere were becoming more and more for white males only. As Americans move west, so did slavery. As Americans move into the West, they bring the institution of slavery with them. And you can see by 1860 here, the states with the highest percentage of slave population. Some of the ones that would be what was considered the West at the time: Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Arkansas. Eli Whitney's invention of the cotton gin in 1793 allowed for quick separation of cotton and seeds and made the production of cotton extremely profitable. The early 19th century saw the birth of the Cotton Kingdom in the Deep South as cotton plantations and slavery spread throughout the region of the country. In 1793, the year the cotton gin was invented, the United States produced 5 million pounds of cotton. By 1820, that number had grown to 170 million pounds. If you look at the map, you can see the Cotton Kingdom of the South. Each dot represented 4,000 bales of cotton a year. On the bottom right-hand corner, you see a picture of a cotton gin where you would put the cotton in and turn the wheel and it would separate the seeds. This made it much quicker to separate cotton from seeds. It made cotton much more profitable. And then in the bottom left-hand corner, you see Eli Whitney's grave, which is in Yale at New Haven, Connecticut. The founding generation believed that slavery would die off with tobacco, but unfortunately the invention of the cotton gin led to a spread of slavery in the United States and the growth of slavery in the United States. In 1808, Congress banned the Atlantic slave trade. This leads to a growth in the internal slave trade. If you look at the map in the right, the upper map shows the slave population in 1790. And then by 1860, you can see slaves were traded from the old Upper South into the Cotton Kingdom and the Deep South. It's estimated that between 1800 and 1860, 1 million slaves were moved into the Deep South from the Old South. Slave trading became a well-organized business and highlighted one of the most horrifying aspects of slave life, the breaking up of families at slave auctions.